Hello, my name is Lawrence Wilson, and welcome back to our video study through the book of Hebrews. Last week, we began chapter 3 by looking at how Jesus is greater than Moses, the servant of God's house. Jesus is the builder of God's house. But we also began to see this concept of doubt and unbelief of the Israelites being emphasized. That continues as we look at the last half of Hebrews chapter 3. Beginning in verse 12, he says, "Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. But exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. For we have come to share in Christ, if indeed we hold our original confidence firm to the end." So this passage, he's telling people, be careful about an unbelieving heart, about a lack of faith that may come in and cause you to fall away from the living God. This is not teaching that a person who is a true Christian, a true believer, can lose the salvation that they have in Christ, the salvation that God has given to them. That is eternally secure. What we are talking about, once again, if you'll remember, in the book of Hebrews, we have a group of Jewish Christians or Jewish believers. We have a group of Jewish followers of Christ who are enduring persecution under the Roman Empire. And some of them, not all of them, some of them are beginning to wonder if following Jesus Christ is really worth it. Some of them are beginning to waver in their faith. They're beginning to grow unsteady rather than having a full confidence in Christ, rather than having a complete faith in Jesus. Their faith is wavering, and they're wondering, would it be better for us to abandon Jesus Christ and return to just our simple following of the Old Testament rituals, traditions, and commands, rather than full-heartedly embracing Jesus Christ? And this author of Hebrews, again, who we don't know, is encouraging them, warning them really, be careful about falling away from the living God, Jesus. Be careful of falling away from a relationship with him and saying, let me go back to something else. Notice that he says, encourage each other while it is called today. That word we looked at last week comes up again. Today is the day for belief. It says, don't be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin, for we have come to share in Christ, if indeed we hold our spiritual confidence firm to the end. It is not, again, that those who profess faith and then deny Christ have lost their salvation. It is true that those people prove they were never true believers to begin with. A true Christian, a true believer, has a firm confidence in Christ that lasts all the way to the end, that they do not turn back from Jesus Christ. Then he again quotes back to the Old Testament, verse 15, as it is said, today, there's that word again, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. Again, talking about the ancient Israelites when Moses brought them to the promised land in the book of Numbers, and they were told, go in and take the promised land, but they refused because of their unbelief, the author of Hebrews reminds us. Verse 16, for who were those who heard and yet rebelled? Was it not all those who left Egypt led by Moses? So the ones who rebelled were the same group of people that Moses led out from Egypt with these 10 amazing plagues on Egypt, these 10 miraculous plagues, and the crossing of the Red Sea and the drowning of Pharaoh's army. Verse 17, and with whom was he provoked for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the wilderness? Right? And to whom did he swear that they would not enter his rest, but to those who were disobedient? So we see that they were unable to enter because of unbelief. The example of the ancient Israelites shows us this was a people who had saw all these amazing miracles that God had done for them to deliver them out of slavery to Egypt. But now, and they get out in the wilderness and they begin to doubt, right? They begin to accuse Moses of bringing them out into the wilderness to die. There's no food. There's no water. What are we doing? They question Moses and Aaron's leadership at one point, right? So they were in this same state that the author of Hebrews is speaking against his readers. They're in this wavering position where they want to fully believe in Moses. They want to fully believe in what God is doing through him, but their heart is causing them to doubt whether it would not be better to go back to Egypt. We see that in the book of Exodus and in the book of Numbers. But this reader, or this writer, is trying to warn against that, right? Again, he keeps saying this word, today. Make a choice today. Because, as we're going to see in the future, if they did not escape, if they were punished, right? We see them, they were banned from going into the promised land. They were killed out in the wilderness rather than getting to receive the promises that God had for them. We should not expect that it will be any different for us in the current time that we are living. We should not expect that it will be any different, that God will just continually extend an offering, and while we're wavering, I'm not really sure if I'm fully buy into this. I'm still have some reservations. No, the author warns you, today, take the opportunity today. Put full trust in Jesus today. Because if you go back and you look at the book of Numbers, chapter 14 and 15, where this all plays out, after God says, you know what, you're not going to get the promised land, you're going to wander around the wilderness for 40 years, they tried to change their mind. They said, it's okay, we didn't mean it. And they gather a group of people together, and they go in to try and take the land, by force, like God said, go in with your armies and take the land. And those people that went in that group, all of them died. They were all killed because God was not with them. It was not in their power to take the land without him. The offer had been rescinded from that generation and would later be offered to the next generation after 40 years of wilderness wander. So we cannot think that the offer to trust Christ is always on the table and it's something for us to sit back and debate and think, I'm not sure what are the pros and the cons here. The author of Hebrews is warning, trust in Christ wholeheartedly today. There is nothing better than Jesus. There is nothing else that can provide salvation the way that he can, right? We've already seen that he provides a better revelation than Old Testament prophets. He is better than the angels who serve God. He is better than Moses, the faithful servant of God's house. We're going to continue to see all ways that Christ is better, but understand one of the ways that he is better is that he offers a better promise than what was promised before, right? To Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to these Israelites who were brought to the promised land. This is what they were promised, this land flowing with milk and honey, a prosperous land, a beautiful land, a land where you can grow and thrive. But Jesus comes, and he offers something much better than that. And we will look at what specifically that is next week when we begin to study chapter 4. But I hope and pray that in this video, something has spoken to your heart, something resonates with you. And I hope and pray that you share it with everyone that you encounter. Thank you, and God bless.